Hi, Leigh Farnell here, and thanks for listening to Leading Your Best Life. Today we're going to talk about standards. It all started with me going to a chicken treat, getting a quick snack or a bit of a meal on the way home the other night, and I was hit by how important standards are. Stay tuned, and what's it got to do with you? Okay, so what am I talking about here? I was going home. We went to this function, a charity function, and had a ginger beer and a piece of pizza. It was actually a prostate evening, getting a free blood sample, but it was raising money for prostate cancer, which is a super important cause. And we were still a bit hungry, so let's get a little something on the way home. We went to the local chicken treat. I haven't been to chicken treat for years. And at that chicken treat, we just wanted to get one of those chicken rolls. And in fact, the prices, I think you got two for $9.95 or something. It was some crazy price with chips. So not necessarily talk about standards when it comes to diet. It's not too bad, but it could have been better than pizza, I suppose. But the point I want to make here is, as I looked around, there were posters, old posters hanging off the glass at the front. The cash register was dirty. Some of the other signage, the stickers were peeled off. Some of the frames around some of the stickers were half broken. And I immediately thought of one of my other clients who I'd been on the phone with just earlier in the day. Now, this particular fellow, besides being a Virgo, if you're into star signs at all, this guy, as he said, he's such a stickler for detail and things being neat. When he had a retail store, and by the way, he had not only one retail store, he ended up floating his whole company on the London Stock Exchange. His attention to detail is phenomenal, to the point where he would tell me, and again, I did a lot of interviews with this guy years ago, he would use a special type of acid wash on the pavement out the front of his shop, so that as people were walking along the street, they would automatically see that his footpath was cleaner than the shops on either side of his business. And then when it came to attention to detail in terms of merchandising, he researched the best type of lighting that would then show up the colours on the highest margin items in the store. And in this case, it was jewellery, and he'd had the jewellery at the front of the store, so that because he knew from psychology, and this guy was what I call an A-grade student of business. He read Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. He went to Dale Carnegie School of Positive Thinking and Communication Skills. Even now, we made a joke just the other day, this guy's now in his 80s, multi-millionaire, that when he goes travelling, he has one suitcase for his clothes, which, as you can imagine, are super neat and organised, but the other case is for his hair products, because he hates one hair on his head being out of order. He even said to me, mate, when I'm sitting in a restaurant, if the knives and forks on my side of the table don't line up with the knives and forks on the other side of the table, he starts getting itchy. This is a man with incredible attention to detail, but more to the point, incredibly high standards. And there's a saying, instead of setting goals, raise your standards. Don't worry about goals, raise your standards, because you may have fantastic goals. I want to be a multimillionaire. I want to be an Olympic athlete. I want to, lose 25 pounds, or whatever the actual goal is. But if your standards, if what you accept as acceptable is a low, then you aren't going to get there. You start to have to raise your standards. Raise your standards around what you eat. Raise your standards around what time you get out of bed. Raise your standards in terms of how you present yourself. I literally went to a breakfast this morning, and there was a fellow sitting opposite me. Now, I've got to say again, if my mate who floated his company on the London Stock Exchange had have been there today, he would have been going off his brain. This particular fellow said he was a highly qualified, and I won't even say the industry, maybe it's not a good idea to say it, but his dress standard was so poor. His shaving standard was so poor. Hair on his face missed from shaving, hair on the back of his neck. His shirt didn't fit and his belly was poking out the front. So Someone else in the room said this guy is a absolute superstar at his profession, but he dressed like he was a slob, that he had low attention to detail. It's a bit like when someone said, when you're flying on an airline and there's coffee stains on the little table, when you pull the table down, you go, boy, if they can't clean the coffee stain off the table, what else can't they do when it comes to the engines or the toilets? Again, when you start to go to places like McDonald's or some of these service stations where they have rigorous cleaning standards so that every half hour or 15 minutes the toilets are clean. You ever been to those toilets on some of those service stations when you're going on a long trip and they're just filthy? You say, mate, my God, if that's what they're doing in the toilets, what are they doing in the kitchen? Standards of attention to detail. So take a look at your own business. Take a look at your own standards. Standards of marketing, standards of dress and presentation, standard of marketing collateral. What image are you presenting? What image do you want to be presenting, and what are you presenting? I got to look at this myself. Could be car cleanliness. Again, my friend was so big on car cleanliness as a standard because little things mean a lot. How you do one thing is how you do other things. So if we're going to lead our best lives, we do have to look in the mirror and ask ourselves about our standards. And by the way, our standards of self-talk, how you talk to yourself, which is another message I'm talking about to myself. Look, if you want help with this, want some coaching, join my one-to-one group or join my group sessions, or let's do a session with your team or yourself in office. Either way, let's talk about standards as a foundation for high performance and leading your best life. Until next time, this is Leigh Farnell. Let's keep leading our best lives. See you next time.